Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Market Rants. I'm your host, King Wabi. I want to welcome you all today. Hope you guys are doing good. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on in the markets today, right? So I'll just go ahead and click share. A bit of a red day, right? BTC back at range lows, right? We go on BTC real quick. I know I'm using CoinGecko. It's a bit of a boomer, but whatever, right? So we've kind of just been crabbing around over the last month or so. Not really much to say, right? Not really much to say at all. Nothing's really up too much. Nothing's really down too much. It's just more of a long sideways consolidation. So want to welcome you guys, and as always, this show is brought to you in part by becausebitcoin.com. Feel free to check us out for merch, products, all stuff like that. Shout out to all of our partners, Bang, Campi Pandas, et cetera, et cetera. Feel free to check us out for all things news related and stuff like that. So going over to our top gainers, let's go ahead and see what's going on. Serum, wow, that is quite a throwback. This shows you how bored the market is right now. But anyways, man, I've got Doc XBT here. He's got some charts for us. Doc, if you guys know, he's been a part of our spaces for a couple of months now, usually like once a week, once every other week and all that stuff. A real Chad when it comes to these markets, man. And I've been meaning to go ahead and get him on this show, right? He's more of a price action trader. And that's kind of today's topic, right? Price action is king, and why price action above all else is the supreme dictator on what goes on in these markets, right? Marketing tactics for crypto, price go up, number go up, NGU tech. So before we officially get started, guys, sorry I'm stuttering here. I want you guys to smash that like button, smash it up, really helps out with the algorithm. I'm brought to you in part by Because Bitcoin, once again. And let's go ahead and talk some shop. Doc, what's going on, brother? Great to have you on the show. How are you feeling today, my man? Quite a boring day in the markets, man. Another 3% pullback. Maybe we'll have a little 3% pump ski to the upside and just rinse and repeat until Q4, right? I know that's something that you've been saying on the spaces, right? Q1 and Q4 are usually, the best seasons for upside volatility, and Q2 and Q3 is really just choppy price action, more 100%. Of a big environment, man. So how are you, my man?
Pretty good, man. I think there's plenty of opportunity in the markets if you know where to look. But yeah, more or less Q2, Q3, pretty much since I've joined crypto a few years ago, I know that this time of year is not very productive for trending markets, right? And one thing I like to do is combine price action with trends. That's the core part of my system. I do a little bit of both. Some people are pure price action traders. Some people are pure kind of trend traders. I pride myself on the ability to trade both of those markets. So for someone like me, the summertime is all about trading ranges, not having crazy expectations for price action, not looking to play trend continuation on every single pump, and really securing the gains when they're there. So yeah, man, it's like you said, I think we've been talking about on spaces pretty much since I started talking to you, is that, I'm expecting Q2, Q3 to be more of a range bound environment. If you can see kind of the bottom of this chart right here, this is what we got last year, right? We had a phenomenal start to the year. We had a big pump from the FTX lows all the way up into 30K. And I remember this 30K environment where, people were talking about there's nothing but air. There's nothing but air above us. And, there's liquidity at 34K and there's this and there's that and whatever. And we got canned at 30K for about 6 to 7 months. That was kind of my bias going into here. I was willing to acknowledge that let me put on the daily trends here, that the daily trend is still up, right? The H4200, we talked about this so much on spaces. The H4200 is holding up the world, right? We had the meme of Atlas holding up the earth, and that was Bitcoin's H4200 holding up the entire market. And a big part of my system is acknowledging when trends break down, you're going to have to look for a higher time frame trend to catch you. So the beautiful thing that Bitcoin did was crab around long enough for the weekly trends to catch up to price, right? And that's where we're at. We finally got our weekly trend tags where we're confluent with last cycle's kind of weekly resistance. So that's where we're sitting. And it's so reminiscent of April, May of last year, where we had this kind of crab market. And I remember sentiment in here was just every single pump upwards was, hey, we're going back to 30K. Every single drop downwards was, hey, we're going to 20K and the cycle's over, right? So I think one of the things that people don't pay attention to is they focus too much on these range lows and they don't focus enough on high time frame trends. And I think, as long as Bitcoin continues to hold these weekly trends, be it 59K, 55K, 53K, it really doesn't matter to me. I just want to see high time frame trends continue to hold. And it could be a little bit, man. I think the market's doing a fantastic job of wiping the froth from the markets. I think we're seeing liquidity migrate from not so good alts to better alts, right? You're seeing coins like Pepe and Render have phenomenal bounces off the lows, right? This is the market telling you these coins are champions. People that may not have position in Render are migrating liquidity to coins like Render, coins like Pepe bouncing off these lows. So that's what you're seeing. Like versus coins like an ape, for example, who no one really cares about, right? There's coins out here that get pumps just because everything in the market is pumping, and when the markets aren't so hot, no one's rushing in to be like, oh, well, I finally get my ape position, right? They're like, oh, okay, I finally have an opportunity to buy Render and Pepe and stuff. So I think summer's all about that liquidity migration and flights to, or I don't know if you want to call it quality, but flight to more desirable coins.
Yeah, man. And I know we also talked about Airweave, tickers AR, and
yeah, we can pull that up.
It really seems that AI and memes are truly the narrative of this cycle, right? And going back to your opening statement with BTC ranging for 6 to 7 months, there was absolutely hardly anything to do during that period except trade Rollbit, right? And now we look at Rollbit BTC, right? Look at that pair. It's just indicative of how savage this market is once it becomes trending, right? Like things that trend when the market's not trending often get forgotten about when the market starts to trend again, right?
100%.
And I remember when we had that breakout in October, we actually had Chainlink pull up a 200% move after going sideways for almost a year and a half, right? So it's like, the only thing that really sticks into my mind that's been through this multi-year accumulation range that's just waiting to break out and everybody's looking at it is probably Doge, man. That's probably I think that's probably one of the next ones to break out before BTC truly starts sending in this bull market, man. But I mean, just look at that thing, man. It's just been coiled up for 2 years, right? Like we had that complacency shoulder in the springtime, right? Like early 2022. And we had that false breakout, and now we're just kind of back in that range. And, Doge is, maybe it's Chainlink to where Chainlink was in 2023, right? It was just kind of teasing everybody for the first half of the year. And then in Q4, it truly starts to break out. And I remember last bull market, I'm sure you do as well. When Doge runs, it can really melt face. And, that's just my dubious take, right? But how is sentiment for you, right? Like your IRL friends, do they kind of think that, oh, crypto is a scam, right? We recently had a college graduate, right? I think he was like a valedictorian or whatever, and he gave his speech, and he's like, oh, once you guys graduate, save as much as possible using Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the most decentralized savings account system that the world has ever known. And people just booed him. They yelled him out of the arena, right? And it's like, you would think that from a sentiment perspective, Bitcoin was still at 20, 30K, but, we're complaining about BTC being at 60K plus. Right?
Yeah. Sentiment on my end, a lot of people know that I'm in crypto now. Probably not so much my colleagues from med school. They probably don't know what I'm doing anymore, but friends that I grew up with, they all know I'm in crypto. I give them the straight truth, and I say, a lot of stuff in crypto is very speculative, which it is, right? A lot of stuff has yet to prove the kind of mission statements that they set out to prove. But I think as far as Bitcoin is going, it's proved everything that it needs to prove, right? It goes up cycle over cycle. You can't kill it. It is a vehicle for savings. As that guy said, I have a cold storage Bitcoin stack that I don't trade. I hold. It's separate than my active trading portfolio. It's separate than my cyclical portfolio. But I do think Bitcoin is one of the rare ones. It's actually probably the only rare one that is proven to be Lindy and able to weather any storm, right? There is no Ethereum without Bitcoin. There is no Solana without Bitcoin. Maybe we move away from that down the line, but that's to be seen. And sentiment as far as like my friends go is like, they want to speculate, right? They want to come in the market. They understand how risky it is. They want to speculate on the upside. I've advised them. I'm like, hey man, whatever money you put in here, there are black swans, there are bad events. I've been through many of them. Some you can see coming, some you can't. So don't overinvest. Don't put in what you can't afford to lose. So I think from my end, no one really calling it a scam. They just know what it is. That it's extremely speculative. It's just like betting on any other speculative technology. There's plenty of AI stocks in the stock market that don't deserve the valuations they're at. Tesla entered an extremely speculative bubble a couple years ago. So it's just par for the course, and I think what's more interesting is sentiment on CT, how people just cannot understand that a range bound environment is not the end of the world. And markets can range longer than people can maintain their sanity. And I'm already seeing a lot of people on CT completely lose their sanity in this range.
Right.
Every pump is okay, the bottom's in, we're going to 100K, and every dump is it's fucking over, we're going to 40K, pardon my language. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at right now. I think it's a patience game, it's a waiting game, and when people are finally willing to acknowledge that not every pump is going to lead to crazy prices, that's when you start building solid floors. When people forget how to dream, when people forget that the market can trend violently, that's the right environment for trending markets. If I take you back to this time last year when we started breaking out in October, like I said, all summer was that consensus 34K level, 40K level. And did Bitcoin care about these levels? Did it stop there? No, it just continued trending. And I remember the sentiment in here, because we were trapped in a range bound environment for so long, the sentiment in here was, okay, Bitcoin's topped. Every 5% pullback was a top. Everyone was de-risking continuously. And it's the exact opposite. When we get to these crazy prices, people forget how to contain themselves, and then they just shoot for the stars. So I think it's one of those environments right here where we have to reteach people to be conservative, and once they get that mindset, when we finally start breaking out to 70, 80, probably Q4 like we're talking about, people will put a can on it and they'll say, oh, this is a top and this is a top, and every 5% pullback will be scary. So it's an ebb and flow of psychology, right?
Yeah, I think the market has a way of playing games with you, and now we find ourselves in a situation like, all right, ETFs that already passed, the halving already passed. What's the next thing, right? And I guess the next thing would be the elections, right? I think even if people aren't political, right? We had former President Trump talking about, if he's elected, America is going to be a safe place for crypto. Because if you guys are watching in the audience or watching in the replay, have kept up, right? The current administration and, with the SEC and the White House, they're not really pro crypto, right? They don't want these major financial institutions to bid these things up. And they just don't want anybody to have ownership of anything, right? You'll own nothing and be happy about it, right? But, I think given that this is an election year and the liquidity cycle is finally ramping up to the upside, right? I think crypto is finally going to be mainstream, like as far as worldwide, right? Like here in America, maybe in some parts of Asia, and maybe a little bit of Europe, right? Not as much as America, but I think worldwide, this is the year where like this market is going to be front and center. And I think, seeing things from like a price action perspective, something like a Pepe, a whiff, right? Things that have been trending all year, those are just going to be absolute face rippers, right? So my kind of dubious speculation, Doc, and feel free to chime in with this, is that things like a Pepe, things like a whiff, those might actually, front run a bunch of other tokens, right? Where it's like maybe we have Pepe and whiff reach 30, 50, $60 billion market cap, and then we have like your injectives, your TIAs, then they catch up, right? And again, like, it's very concerning when you have things like an injective, things like a TIA, things that were really trending in Q4 kind of just be muted. And now everybody is just in the same markets, right? Like me and you, we're probably trading Pepe, 1v1, right? And I feel like the existing capital in the system, once they see BTC break all-time high, it's like, oh crap, maybe I should buy things that are already trending, in price discovery and all that stuff. And That's kind of what happened with Doge last cycle too, right? If we take a look at January 2021, Doge did like a 12x in a week or something, and it basically did nothing for a couple of months while things like Matic and Phantom and Luna and AVAX and Sol went on a tear. So it's like Pepe and WIF, they're really one of the only few tokens that are giving you this opportunity to get in the rocket ship before it really explodes, right? Because there is something to be said about like things that aren't trending, right? Like I think we said this on Spaces, where it's like, why would you go ahead and bid something that nobody gives a shit about at the current moment, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's different this cycle versus last cycle, all altcoins kind of pumped together, right? There were pockets of narratives. There were like the L2 ETH killer narrative, right? New L1s, alternative L1s, right? There was a whole subsection narrative, but for the most part, everything kind of ran together. There was a few weeks in April, May, March 2021, where all altcoins were getting a pump. It doesn't matter who you were getting a couple X returns very, very shortly. We have not seen that this cycle. In fact, I think there's only been 2 points so far this cycle where alts kind of ran and did not kind of abide by those laws. And that was initially off the FTX bottom. This one right here, I remember all altcoins getting kind of a
that was
pump.
a beautiful pump, baby.
Yeah.
That pump was so glorious. I remember that one.
And I think the second one was right here. The second one was right here, right off of the October start, the fake news headline. This got all altcoins to pump. But pretty much since the rest of this bullishness has been that, the new buzzword, the altcoin dispersion, where we're really only bidding narrative coins, right? Whatever those narratives are, whether they're RWA or AI or memes or whatever, people are concentrating money on these and speculating more on the narratives at hand. And we saw this meta start developing early in the bear market, like, or not, maybe late in the bear market, depends how you look at it. But I remember this kind of merge rally in 2022 really opened up that idea for me, where only certain sectors were getting the pump. It was not every single altcoin in the market. And people realize like they want to put their money where they can get max return. They don't want to underperform. So you're seeing some coins like last cycle's heroes, like a Polkadot or a Cardano, really, really underperformed this cycle, where they were leaders. They're still top 10, I think top 15 coins. I think even SHIB, Doge, these coins have not performed the same way as a Solana has, right? Solana has a much bigger narrative than the rest of these coins. And AVAX is underperforming. Who's using AVAX compared to Solana, right? So, so that's kind of where we're at. So when it comes to, like you're saying, Pepe and WIF could really lead the charge. I think it's very possible. And you're seeing kind of that money flow in and protect the Pepe price, right? This has been one of the strongest performers off of the weekly trends. It's almost back at all-time highs. Do I think that it's immediately going to go to crazy targets? No, I think it could maintain this range for longer. But I do think it's going to continue being one of the leaders in the market. And you could just see that, through the bid. Like you could look at various coins and you could see that they're just not getting the bid that Pepe is at the moment. And that's just, holders swapping coins. They're looking at their portfolios and they're going, do I really want to own this, or do I want to own Pepe, right? And they're selling some bags and they're buying Pepe and they're reallocating. And that's what what I'm calling liquidity migration is going on. Like if you look at Total 3, let's come to the weekly here. What's happening on Total 3 for the last 5 weeks? It's crabbing sideways. Total 3, money is not leaving or entering. It's just migrating from coin to coin. And like I said, you can see that when you look at some charts that are performing really well, like you mentioned, like an Arweave getting the bid, like a Render getting the bid, like an Ondo holding its value, like a Solana getting, I guess Solana's not that great, but if you look at like ETH is getting no bid, right? Like people are not wanting to speculate on a coin like Ethereum at this moment. So you are seeing that dispersion. You're seeing liquidity migrate. But I think for the most part, most of the money is still staying in the system. The people that got wiped. And it's just about a long reaccumulation phase now.
Doc, before we continue, guys, I see almost 70 people here on the live stream, and we only have 19 likes. I want to see at least half of you guys smash that like button. I want to see at least 30 likes, guys. Smash the like button. Smash it up. I want you to pound it. Pound it like the green button. If you want pumps this week, smash that like button. If you want all-time highs, smash that like button. If you want 1,000% gains, smash that like button. If you want ADA, for the gentleman that's here in the comment section saying that ADA will pump. If you want ADA, my goodness, what a horrible chart. If you want Charles Hoskinson to save your bags, if you want your girlfriend's boyfriend to break up with her so you can finally get back with her and you can crawl out of your boyfriend's girlfriend's basement, smash that like button. And Doc, looking at Render, my goodness, I know we're not looking at Render right now, but Render is actually up almost 100x from the all-time lows from FTX. I clearly remember seeing Render at like 20 cents ish at the Pico lows, like at the exact bottom. And believe it or not, guys, Render is actually one of the few tokens that has been around for multiple cycles that went on to make a new all-time high.
And almost 50x.
Bro.
Yeah, I mean, I think INJ did 100x. I think a bunch of coins have already put in, extreme gains.
Yeah. Like the meat of the move is like there's really no more extreme gains to be had, right? And another thing that we can talk about, Doc, is like the market is about to have so much supply come into the altcoin space with all these new launches, right? We have, Bear Chain, a bunch of the modular projects, a bunch of AI projects like Jensen and Ritual as well, right? And Monad. And, collectively, these things are going to add like 100 billion plus circulating market cap to total 3. So it's like, how do these new projects get bids, right? And we saw with things like ENA, right, and some of these other newer launches that launched earlier this year. And what tends to happen is like people have to sell their existing bags to bid those things up. And I think that's why like a lot of these launches have been like, quick 2 to 4x's in like a week and a half. And then they just dump down by 50% and they go into a long range. It's like, oh, new launch, new narrative. All right, let's bid this thing up. Then the timeline starts talking about it for a few days, and then narrative is done. And now they become this new asset where it's like you go from one day being a hot new asset that everybody's talking about, fresh chart, fresh narrative, and then a month later, it becomes this asset that's so codependent on what Bitcoin and ETH do, right?
100%. That's why, this cycle has been tougher. I think every cycle gets a little bit harder than prior cycles. I think in 2017, I wasn't around for 2017, but, echoing the experience of traders that were around back then, the way that they talked about it was you would just wait for Bitcoin to go parabolic. You would take your Bitcoin, you would put it in altcoins because there was no USDT pairs back then. You would take your Bitcoin, you put it in altcoins, the altcoins would run up and you'd put it back into Bitcoin. That was the game back then. And it really didn't matter what altcoin you bought. There was clear-cut alt seasons. This cycle has been one continuous alt season where there's not really moments where you can just buy everything and make money. Maybe like we talked about, there was 2 distinct moments off the FTX lows and maybe the start of October where you could do that. But for the majority of this cycle, that's not been a viable strategy. So you have to be a bit more selective about where you put your money. And you can't really marry any bags. Like one of my favorite coins from last year was Caspa. I was very bullish Caspa down here. I missed the first.
Same here.
Yeah, I missed the first 10x. Yeah, I missed this first 10x, and I was looking at it, and I was going, it has this narrative, squeezed all the juice. Has all the juice been squeezed out? And I didn't think so. It didn't have tier 1 listings. People weren't talking about, DAG technology. I thought proof of work was a good narrative. So I placed bets on this accumulation phase down here on Caspa and rode it all the way until the Binance listing. Now, when that happens, I reassess and I go, do I think there's still more juice in this, or do I think money can rotate, elsewhere? Now it's run up to $3-4 billion. Can I find a good investment? Can I find a good place to place my money that'll return better than Caspa? And for me at this time, it was a yes, right? So I think that's how the game is played now. You can't just buy one bag and sit in that bag and hope that bag carries you throughout the bull market. I know you were super bullish on TIA, and I think you did a phenomenal job cutting this position near the highs and milking and extracting tons of value from the modularity narrative. And then when you saw, hey, the market doesn't have the risk appetite for modularity anymore, you moved on. And I think that's the way you play these cycles now.
Yeah, man. I even remember with something like Dime, I was like, a huge investor and all that stuff. Like I truly believed, in the narrative of all these things, but at the end of the day, are these narratives gonna pay the bills? Are these narratives gonna save you if you have a 50% drawdown? They're not. And I learned that with Luna when I almost got zeroed out, right? I had to sell my UST with like a 20% drawdown, and I thought Luna was gonna change the world and all that stuff. And I swore to myself that after that, like I'm not really going to, believe these narratives and marry these narratives and all that stuff. And with modularity, like Tia was a very rare case, and I just don't think it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, when Tia came out, I want to go ahead and share my screen just for like a tiny bit, Doc.
Go for it.
So let me go to
your show, brother.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Celestia right here. So I want to do something really quick, Doc. So when Celestia came out, it was valued at what, 300 mil ish market cap.
Yeah.
And at that time, right, we go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin was just breaking out of this massive long accumulation range, right? So October 30th, right here, right? Like just as it was about to break out, right? 34K, and then it ran all the way up to 47, right? And then look at something like a Dime, right? This thing was just not really disappointment because it still like had a nice pump or whatever, but it came out right at like damn near a bill market, right?
Yeah,
700 mil ish, right? It barely
if
did.
You were, can I take you through that day? If you were quick, you could have caught it a lot cheaper. It just ran up immediately, right? Because again, the market expects it. They go, me and you were on the same trade, right? We saw what Tia ran up to. We're like, okay, we're hyped for Dimension. But Dimension did what Tia did, or like a muted version of that, in 48 hours. It didn't take it 2 months to mark up the same way. I think Dimension launched, I bought it on MEXC at like 350, right? Yeah. And it ran up to $9 in how many days? Like 48 hours to 72 hours. So it did the bulk of the gains very quickly, because me, you, a bunch of other participants are looking at that and going, man, there's value to extract here. But we get that value very quickly. We go, do we really want to hold on to this, or we want to take our gains, right? So it becomes a game like that.
Yeah. And, taking a look at, the whole lead up into Dime was, in the first half of Q1 was modular this, modular that. Manta Network released, did a quick 2x, right? Let's go to another one. Alt Layer. Oh, man, people remember this one. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Alt Layer right here, right? So same thing. Max. Look at this release. Almost a 2x, little dump, and then small run up. This is when like the overall market just started chatting, right? But the meat of the move was basically from here to here, and then this is where like Dime started going crazy. So kind of had the same price action. And then with ENA, that one was just like, I just think ENA was like wrong timing, right? I think they released right when BTC was just starting to distribute and all that stuff, right? So
once again, like a coin like Athena, when it launches, like look at these moves you're getting. What is this? 8 days, it does over a 2x, right? 2.5x in about 8 days from launch listing price. So there's a lot of value to extract if you're willing to buy these things at launch. And then afterwards, it becomes a game of like, okay, there's airdrop sellers, there's people that are up some money, there's people that want to reaccumulate. So a lot of coins need to change hands for a long time before the market finds a fair value, right? And whether that's at 80 cents or 70 cents, or maybe it's lower, maybe it's higher, right? But eventually the market will come to consensus, and then something or another will happen with Athena or the narrative. Maybe it's ETH season, maybe it's this, maybe it's that will drive hype towards these coins and allow them to mark up once again. So like if you look at like, maybe this is a bad example, maybe it's a good example, but something like Arbitrum kind of did the same thing, where I know it looks bad now, but
man, Doc, I went over this during my last YouTube stream. We had a Rob from Digital Asset News. So if you can pull up, right, Arbitrum next to WIF, at the beginning of February, when the market started, to form that bottom post ETF, and then compare the two, it seems like everybody that was holding ARB said, all right, you know what? These VC tokens aren't really going to perform during this environment. As long as Ethereum is below all-time high, I'm just going to go ahead and bid memes. And WIF just absolutely destroyed Arbitrum, and it was down only that entire time. It's like, why is something like an Arbitrum, something that was so like, fundamentally valued last year, performing like shit? And it's like, price action is king. Price action adds all the context you need to know, right? Like, the narratives don't really matter. And I think that, like, do you think that's why these trades play out so quickly? Like the investors, like the quote unquote investors, right? The people that believe in the fundamentals and all that stuff, maybe they're having a change of mind and they're saying, you know what, man, this is a trader's market. I have to become more of a cerebral in these markets rather than just like hodl for years on end. Where, I mean, if we're being honest, over time, most of these altcoins are actually bleeding to zero against BTC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a factor of a few things. A lot of common knowledge is out there now, right? We're all playing on like a more even battlefield where people understand that altcoins are going to bleed a lot harder than Bitcoin. They're not willing to round trip gains. They're not willing to hold into the bear market. They want their money, right? That's just like the common theme here is people have figured out, like, through 3-4 cycles of data now, what they can expect to happen. And they know that Bitcoin and Ethereum now and Solana, maybe, we'll get there soon, but these coins survive. They can get hammered, but they survive, right? So people are less willing to sell their blue chips and they're more willing to part ways with their altcoins. Like I said, there was coins last cycle, like a Cardano and like a Polkadot that dominated, what else? An AVAX that dominated, that are underperforming this cycle, right? And that may continue to be the case. And a lot of these coins, they're happening a little bit quicker, like an Arbitrum, right? Arbitrum, like I was going to get into, is like, it had an early pump. It had that long accumulation of 6 months where people need to decide on like a fair value. It had a markup because Q1 is typically very, very bullish for Ethereum. So this was your beta play, right? Ethereum, LDO, Optimism, Arbitrum were your beta plays.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and they did phenomenal for a little bit. And once you capitalize that move, you go, okay, my thesis was, ETH will do well. I want to bet on ETH in a more risk, and I want to take a little bit more risk, right? I want to go in futures. I want to leverage trade, but maybe this will offer me more upside, which it did. Your thesis is complete. You take your profits. And then, unfortunately, it being a VC coin, they just dump supply into the market. And I think that's what happened with Arbitrum, is they just had an unlock. They released a lot of tokens, and this is the result of that, right? And that's why memes are doing so well. There's no supply that gets created out of thin air that enters the market to dump on you. It's all there at launch, right? All of the coins that are ever going to be released are there, right? And then the game's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's sort of like, we're gonna raise like 20-30 mil and then come up with a number like 2-3 bill FDV just so we can have runway for years and years and years. We'll cover it up with a niche narrative and we'll just create runway like that. It's kind of like sophisticated robbery, right? That's what I'm calling it.
It's
right?
what Wall Street's been doing for 100 years, man.
Yeah, all markets really, but crypto is just it's something else, right?
I think the lesson here, Wabi, is that as the market gets smarter and as your competition gets smarter, you also have to get smarter, right? You have to keep adapting, keep growing, keep learning. The metas shift, the narratives shift, the game shifts, and as long as you're pliable in your strategy and you keep adapting to the market, which is the same as Wall Street, the same in any other market, you can't just be a one-trick pony forever, right? I think, like, look at the stock market. Dividend investing was the gold standard for how many years and how many decades. If you're a dividend investor in the stock market right now, you are getting destroyed by speculation. You're getting destroyed by growth markets. And if you don't have that ability to adapt to the environment, you're going to underperform.
Yeah, it's like what's rational is actually irrational, right? It's like, oh, you should only buy the Dow Jones, when in reality, like, dude, the Dow Jones has peaked out, for ROI since like the 70s, right? In the 70s is when the NASDAQ composite ETF went live. And of course, the NASDAQ has been straight up in a straight line for basically 50 years, right? 52 years, 53 years, however long it is after 50 years, right? I know it went live in 72 or 73, right around there. And, what is the equivalent of the NASDAQ, right? If we consider BTC the Dow Jones, right? Because you're not really going to get 1000x with BTC anymore, right? So what would be like the SPX? What would be like your IWMs in crypto? And it's like, I think the market right now is just so young where it's still kind of finding its footing, right?
Yeah.
Like Ethereum for me right now, from a fundamental perspective, that's where I'm going to keep my stables, right? I'm not keeping it on Sol, right? Because I know Solana still has its issues where it goes offline and all that stuff. Sometimes transactions don't really go through, and God, it's sort of like a Lamborghini, right? That's what I call Solana, right? It looks so amazing from the outside and the inside, but like when you actually, like if you've ever been inside a Lambo and you've grabbed like the steering wheel and you've actually opened and closed the Lambo, if you actually like messed around with the interior, it feels like you can rip it apart with your own hands.
Wow.
It's like a plastic lid, or maybe it's just my grip. I don't know, man, but
too strong for the Lambo, bro.
yeah. But do you look at crypto from a fundamental perspective, man? Like, or just like strictly, this is a price action market. I don't really give a shit about. Go ahead.
I think the one thing that I believe in the strongest is Bitcoin. I have a hard time building long-term conviction in anything outside of crypto or anything else in crypto outside of Bitcoin. That's the one that I understand. It has the simplest narrative and it's the simplest technology. It doesn't try to do it doesn't have any bells and whistles. It just is what it is, right? It's very easy to understand. And it's not selling you anything crazy, right? It's there, right? And it's Lindy, meaning it's survived everything. It has survived everything you've thrown at it. It's been pressure tested after pressure tested. People have tried to use it to fuel their Ponzi's like Luna. It survived. People have tried to manipulate the markets with it. People have tried to ban miners from countries like China migration last cycle. They've tried to fork it. It survived everything. The worst stock market environment in like 12 years happened in 2022, where the stock market got crushed. Inflation's at an all-time high. It just keeps surviving, right? And now it's getting legitimized by BlackRock and Wall Street. So for me, I can speculate and I can be comfortable and I can keep on saving in Bitcoin. I can keep on holding Bitcoin. I can keep on stacking it when I feel like it got dumpstered and this is a good time to buy more Bitcoin. It's going to outperform the S&P. It's going to outperform NASDAQ. That regime's going to continue. It's going to outperform gold. That's what I can have conviction in. And I'm not looking at it like hyper Bitcoinization. I don't think it's going to we'll all be transacting on Bitcoin. I don't know if anything like that'll ever happen, but I do know that this asset continues to grow value and it's been pressure tested. Outside of that, I have a very hard time developing 10-year conviction in anything else in crypto.
Yeah. Maybe memes, right? Memes are never going to die.
The thing with memes is like, I look at memes like clothing brands or like musical artists, that they're fads, they're what's hot, but like the next generation of people 5 years from now, the people that are 12 years old now and they grow 17 and they have some money and they have a job and they want to speculate on markets, what they find funny is going to be a lot different than the 23 and 25-year-olds. Like these things are going to keep changing,
Yes, it's
so
like, is Pepe going to be trending 10 years from now?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you find Dogecoin funny? I don't. I've never thought that's I've never shared a Doge meme to my friends ever.
Yeah.
So
I think that was like a COVID meme. And, I don't want to talk crap on Doge because I do think it's going to break out majorly sometime this year. But Elon hasn't made a single peep about crypto at all whatsoever in 2 years, like pre-Luna going to zero.
Yeah.
So it's like without Elon and the handle right at the front lines, like what's the narrative going to be about Doge? I know there's Doginals and all that stuff, but the thing with inscriptions is that like it's so short-lived, right? Like things like ordinals and inscriptions, the specific project or inscription that you're in only lasts a few days. It's kind of like going to the casino basically, right? And playing a specific slot machine and saying, "Oh my gosh, I just won 3 games in a row in the specific slot machine. This slot machine is going to change the world." That's
Yeah.
how I view inscriptions and ordinals and all that stuff, right? Like ordinals is the casino, but the specific like inscription or whatever or project, I I don't know about that,
I
man.
think my strategy for markets, I'm not the most I'm pretty risk averse, right? I'm much more risk adverse than the average crypto participant. So I'm comfortable with the market picking the winner and then just submitting to the winner. I don't always have to be the guy that's like, I need the million X, I need the 1,000X. So like for something like Pepe, I didn't buy Pepe till it was already listed on MEXC. It was already 100 million market cap. I missed the first 1,000X, when it was on chain. I missed all of that. But my conviction grew as it started making sense to me. Okay, the markets picked this as a winner. Same thing with WIF. I missed the first run up on WIF. I bought it at 40 cents or 38 or 40 cents. I missed a bunch of WIF, right?
Yeah. And it's the narrative of, all right, I don't want to be early to the party. I'd rather be fashionably late, but I at least know what kind of music is playing.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good metaphor.
So, man, I guess before we wrap up here, what are some short-term things, maybe on lower time frames that you want to see with BTC or maybe Solana?
Yeah, we could do Bitcoin. I think it's very clean. Bitcoin coming back, right? I think everyone has seen the same deviation, right? Everyone's got the same thing on their charts. 60K was a very consensus level. We lost 60K. We got back inside. We take some liquidity. We're trading back towards those lows. So if this range deviation setup is going to play out, you really want to see higher lows form, right? You really need to see demand come in and defend 60K and 59K, which is where we're at going into the weekend right now. The minute we start trading below this, I would say that you're probably looking at either equal lows or a little bit of a lower low. And that's kind of the way that I see it. I think, from a psychological perspective, if, you've been around crypto markets, when Bitcoin is strong, it does not give bulls the opportunity to buy the levels they want to buy. When Bitcoin is strong, it front runs everyone's bids. So the fact that we're already coming back into this region is already a little concerning. I would have loved to see us have a very shallow pullback and push. But where we're at right now, I think there's a lot of short-term trading you could do. If you're interested in trading hourly charts and 4-hour charts, there are setups here. But by the time people watch this, probably tomorrow, they'll probably already be played out. So, there's no sense talking about super low time frames. I think we stick to the high time frame. And I think, from Bitcoin on a daily chart, it just reminds me so much of this, right? 60K is the consensus target today. 26.5 last summer, Wabi. You remember the importance and the way people were looking at this deviation, right? And the reclaim and saying that, look, we're going to get that perfect retest. And what happened? We just bled out lower. And when people finally give up and say it's over and we're going to zero and the cycle is in, whatever, that's the moment you get these squeezes. And the squeezes occur and it doesn't let anyone in. It does not give you an opportunity to buy when Bitcoin is strong. So my best case right now is if we cannot find strength in the current price action we're at, 60K, it is likely, and I'm open to the idea of us trading a little bit lower at 55K and then putting in the squeeze maybe a week or 2 weeks from now, maybe the end of May, start of June. But I'm not bearish on this market yet. It would take losing the daily 200 to get me to be pretty bearish on a weekly perspective.
Yeah, man. I hope it holds, man. I hope we actually consolidate and these moving averages push up, right?
Yeah.
But I know the market before it starts, the expansionary phase of the upside, there's usually a time period where, the consensus is that it's all over, right?
Yeah.
People that are strictly consensus traders and don't really look at charts or anything like that, man. But what about on Sol, brother?
Yeah, Sol, it's phenomenal. Like I'm really happy that I got the opportunity to rebuy in the 120s. The market's given me a couple opportunities to buy here. I would not be opposed to Solana doing something like this for another 2 months, right? Here's your highs, here's your lows, and we just travel in here, right? And every time it's at the lows, it's over, and every time we're at the highs, we're going to 300K. The way that Solana looks right now, it's so clean. It's so clean on high time frame. It's so clean from a trend perspective, from a price action perspective. You have demand built up here. You have your expansion. You have clear cut support and resistance levels. You want to just see 115 hold. And even if you wick down here, it doesn't matter, right? You need to see this completely roll over, except below here, break market structure. And by breaking market structure, I mean this is the low that sent you to the high. You want to protect these type of lows. If you break underneath this, that's your market structure break on the weekly. Things can unwind then. But, the way that it's at right now, people are fixating too much on Sol's at 146. It's at 130. It's at 150, right? And they're getting chopped up in this range. And I think for people trying to play the strong coins on a cyclical in a cyclical manner, you need to focus more on the weekly charts versus the 4-hour charts, because if you're trying to make a high time frame bias by trading the 4-hour charts, you're going to have a bad time, man.
Market makers need to smash the buy button, man. Just like you guys in the audience need to smash the like button, smash the like button. I'm here joined by Doc. We've been going for almost an hour, giving you guys free alpha. Doc, you've been putting on a clinic, brother. You've given us a prescription, man. And, man, I want to thank you for the presentation that you've been giving us, man. And, going back to what you're discussing about Sol, there's some similarities between the price action we've seen on Sol so far year to date compared to last year's, right? We had that huge run up, and then Sol just kind of bled down and then flatlined.
Yeah.
Again, right?
I mean, yeah, look at what we did last year, right? This is a lot of volatility. And Solana was not a beloved coin at this time. Solana was actually very hated. People did not like Solana. People did not like Ansem. I don't think a lot of people, that came into this market in Q4 understand that Ansem was not as beloved as he was, back then. People did not like his take on Solana when he was saying Solana's going to this price and that price, and you guys are wrong. He wasn't loved, right? And at the lows, it was we hate Ansem, and at the highs is we love Ansem, right? And this is the price action psychology that the crypto puts you through before rewarding you with this. And I think it's more of the same right now. And talking about fractals, I'll leave it at this. Does this not look like the same kind of stuff as like mid-cycle last time? Does it not look almost the same, where you had a big markup, you had a big puke? This is like 60-70%, a long reaccumulation throughout all summer, and then a big markup again. If that's the case, we're very early in this, and it's going to take some patience.
It does, man. And I know there's some dubious speculation that the market may peak out later in Q4 of this year or Q1 of next year. And I'll say that, like, if Solana goes to like $500, because the market cap actually reached an all-time high a couple of weeks ago. We have Pepe take a leg to like 40-50 bill, right, by Q1 of next year. Then, yeah, this cycle maybe is a bit different. Maybe it's a bit expedited. We've got the ETF flows. We actually are a lot higher, pre and post halving, as we usually are, right? Or rather, not as we usually are, but, counter to where we usually are, which is 50% plus below the previous all-time high, right? I think last halving we were at like 9,000, and the halving before that we were like again 50-55% below the previous all-time high from the 2013 cycle. So maybe, man, if this is Solana's little leg up before the top, brother, I think it's going to happen pretty quickly, right? I think that's what this market has shown, where it's like sideline capital ends up being the most punished, right? And then, of course, people that are messing around on derivatives, right? Like, I'm not going to mention any names, but like there are some people in the timeline that have just done absolutely terrible this cycle, where they've underperformed Bitcoin by like 100%, right? But I think you should always measure your cycle performance based on what Bitcoin has done, right? So
100%.
Bitcoin is up 300%, right? A clean 4x off of the lows, off of 15K, right? So if you're not up at least 4x over the last 18 months, there's something fundamentally wrong. Something is fundamentally wrong. Either you're working with little capital and you're going all in on on-chain shitcoins, or you're getting blown up on leverage, or you're chasing something that's already up like 13, 14, 15x, right? So example of myself, Doc, I'll just show this one time, brother. I just want to give some context to the audience right here. Give me 1 second, brother. There's this one token that's like running. It was running huge on the Chainlink narrative. It's called CSwap. I have no position in this, by the way. So just to give some context on like, when not to chase, right? So I remember seeing CSwap, like right here. Then it just started pumping. And like right around here, right? Like on the 1st of April, after a 10x run up, everyone, even on our spaces, was saying, man, check out CSwap. And I'm like, brother, I know for a fact, something that's up, it goes from a penny to almost 25 cents. I know for a fact at some point I will be able to get this thing at below 10 cents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, from all the sell pressure that's gone on alts, right? We brought up total 3 and all that stuff. How much more does this have left to give, right?
Yeah, it's
cap on chain token, but yeah, I'm going to stop sharing that.
you need really solid narratives to get buyers of second order and third order to step in. Otherwise, a bunch of coins are just vehicles to trade, right? We can make 500 Solana, shitters a day, right? And how many are going to survive? 1 in a million. And I think it's just you just bet on the winners, man. There's so much juice in this market. Like Render, dude. Like if you just buy your weekly levels on the leader, on the strongest AI narrative that we've had this cycle, a repeated winner, one that is dumped multiple times and continues to make new all-time highs again and again and again, you'll do very well. You don't need to do anything super special. You don't need to try to leverage trade your whole portfolio. Yeah, of course, like I do the same thing. I'm a perp trader. That's my bread and butter. That's what I do every day. But at the same time, I understand that there's so much value in this market. Just holding spot and buying levels and buying these high time frame weekly resets and range low retests and stuff like that, and just being patient. You'll perform pretty well. There's no reason to take there's no reason to be on chain trying to hit 1 million X's every trade.
Yeah. And, before I wrap up, man, I'll just say, with Solana, dude, Q3, Q4 of last year, nobody was really talking about it, man.
Nope.
Nobody was really talking about it.
I was one of the very few Solana bulls last year, man. Very, very few of us were bullish on Solana down here.
Yeah. And speaking of that, man, just want to share this quick little thing real quick, man. Me and Max, we made a video on September 16th, right, on Sol, right? I'll just play a few seconds of this thing, right?
This is potentially a major accumulation phase for Solana.
I'll just share that real quick, right? September 16th. And then I'll just share this tab instead. I'll go on Sol real quick. We'll go on the year, September 16. All right. Right at the teens, brother.
Very nice.
Well, technically the video was made like 2 days before that, but either way, in the teens, man. And it's like you said, nobody gave a damn about it. Nobody gave a damn. But again, there's something to be said, and that's why a topic of this is a portion of this video, right? This live stream has been things that undergo long accumulation ranges and just fail to break range lows, or just continue to be in a range for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if BTC and ETH and BNB or Sol, whatever the majors, the longer the base, the higher into space. When the majors break out, these beta plays that have shown signs of strength when seasonality kicks in for alts, they will melt face.
Yeah.
So maybe like your TIAs, your injectives, your Caspas, those things are probably going to put in one more leg. And I think as you were saying, to have your second or third runs, it's going to take a fresh batch of liquidity. It's going to take a new narrative and all that stuff. And, I think that thing that we're talking about, alt season or whatever, and we're talking about BTC dominance on spaces and all that stuff, it's like when the market gives you those environments, I think people should honestly take advantage, because you don't know how much longer you're going to have. It's usually what, Doc, like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks tops when volatility favors upside, where you can just throw a dart at something that relates to a narrative. And then it's like you need to capitalize on realizing some of those profits because you don't know when the next time that's going to happen. You might be sitting on your hands for like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, right?
Yeah.
So, man, before we close off, man, is there anything that you want to tell the audience? Any advice, man? Like, if you had to go back in time and give yourself some words of advice, people that are, new to the markets and all that stuff, what would you say, brother?
It's my pinned tweet on CT, which is impatience is expensive. With these markets, there's so much value to extract, but they cater to the patient. And I think, if you're looking at markets right now and you're trying to extract max value from the next time they go risk on, you need to have very high time frame plans right now. You need to have some patience. You need to not get shaken out of positions when they're ranging, like look at render. Like these are 30%, 20, 30% moves that feel really bad at the time. But when you understand where you are on the high time frame, you can weather that storm and weather that volatility. And if we just go back to the Solana example one last time, this range down here was not comfy for people. Like range low to range high, these were like 2x moves. These are, maybe, like 60% move to the upside, right? A big correction to 30%. This wick right here, 50%. These are not comfortable. But if you keep the high time frame picture in mind, I think you'll do very well. And I think we're in the similar regime right now. So if you want to try to position as close to range lows as possible, more power to you. If you don't get those perfect ideal entries and you're dealing with volatility every other day, just have high time frame invalidations, understand where you're wrong, and understand that we're in a ranging environment. But yeah, man, just have some patience. People don't have patience, and then they're over rotating and they're over trading ranges. And take a high time frame view.
Patience pays, and price action is king. Doc, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Looking forward for our next collaboration, maybe in a couple of weeks on Space or something like that. Guys, the link to all of Doc's socials are down in the description box below. If you've enjoyed today's show, I'm King Wabi. I'm the host of today's show, Market Rants, brought to you in part by Because Bitcoin. If you've enjoyed this content, go ahead and smash that follow button, subscribe button. I'm sorry, I'm so used to doing spaces and all that stuff on Twitter. But feel free to turn on bell notifications, smash that like button. If you've enjoyed today's, I was going to say spaces again. If you've enjoyed today's live stream, smash the like button, smash it with all you've got. And I want to share one thing, Doc, just one little thing to close us out. If you guys want to, check out a little meme here, let's go ahead and check this out. Put the pump on the coin. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. We need this, Doc.
Man, I miss the bull market memes. You know what's funny is bear market memes are pretty funny too, but we'll get back to this soon, dude. We'll get back to this soon. The vibes will come back.
I hope so, brother. I miss seeing all this stuff, man.
Q4, baby.
Q4, man. Q4, we'll have Michael Saylor calling people poor again, and then also have one last push, and then it's over, right?
Probably. Hopefully.
Goku, man. Oh, I remember the Goku memes with Say Network. You remember that? With Hassan was tweet about Say with Goku.
Yeah.
And then Say would pump like 30, 40, 50% in a 1 hour candle. Brother, man. All right, guys. See you on the next one. Take care. Have a blessed weekend. We'll see you all on Market Check at 11 a.m. EST. And then we'll see you on my show, Market Talk, on Twitter at 4:20, 4:30 p.m. EST. Thank you all so much. God bless you all. Have a fantastic weekend. May the charts be in your favor. Don't blow up and survive until 25. I love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.